We've handled over the last 25 years some very big and very important cases. I believe that this one may surpass them all.
Once a beloved celebrity and inspiration, P. Diddy is now a name notorious with crime and controversy.
We're going to follow this evidence wherever it takes us. We will find the silent accomplices. We will expose the enablers who enabled this conduct behind closed doors. We will pursue this matter no matter who the evidence implicates.
Showing that fame, money, and success can only get you so far.
The biggest secret in the entertainment industry that really wasn't a secret at all has finally been revealed to the world.
Sean John Combs was born on November the 4th, 1969 in Harlem, New York, though he was raised in Mount Vernon with his sister Keisha by his mother Janice, who worked as a model and a teaching assistant, and his father Melvin, who served in the US Air Force, as well as being a close associate of convicted drug dealer Frank Lucas. It was in 1971 when Sean's father was shot dead in his car on Central Park West at the age of just 33 during a failed drug deal, as the perpetrator believed that he was an undercover police officer. The family grew up in poverty, being raised Catholic, with Sean serving a short stint as an altar boy. However, in his later years, he did claim to have not adhered to any specific religion, though he did admit to believing that God was a woman. Quote, "I just follow right from wrong, so I could pray in a synagogue or a mosque or a church. I believe that there is only one God." End quote. Combs graduated from the all-boys Catholic school Mount St. Michael Academy, where he played for the local football team, winning them the division title. However, he would later admit to being given the nickname Puff as a child, as he would very often huff and puff whenever he was angry. Combs attended Howard University for a business major, but ended up leaving after the second year. During his college years, he gained a high reputation for throwing extreme parties. Future singer Usher lived with him for a year in New York at one point during this time, and described Combs' lifestyle as pretty wild.
There were very curious things taking place, and I didn't necessarily understand it.
That's my brother right here from day one. We used to wake up and, damn, pause, but like, check this out. Back in the days when he was like 10 and I was a little bit older, his older brother, we used to fight over the Frosted Flakes. You know what I'm saying? Before pause was invented. You know what I'm saying? But it's my brother for real. We used to actually wrestle off of the Frosted Flakes because he used to always get up early with me. And now he's one of the richest stars in the world. And
What the fuck did Puff just say?
It was in 1990 when Combs gained work as an intern in New York for Uptown Records, which is when he became acquaintances with its founder, Andre Harrell. It was under his guidance Combs ended up becoming the talent director, picking up artists such as Jodeci and Mary J. Blige. However, in 1993, Combs was fired by Uptown Records, though the reason has conflicting reports. Diddy claimed, quote, "I was very passionate and I didn't understand protocol or workplace politics, so I got fired because there can't be two kings in one castle," end quote. However, Harrell himself would later claim, quote, "I fired Puff only to make him rich," end quote. He also claimed that Biggie Smalls under the same label was having issues with his debut album as it covered the unfiltered topic of street life, so he didn't want Combs to face the same restrictions. However, Lord Jamar claimed that it was actually because Combs was caught being romantically involved and inappropriate with another man, though nothing is confirmed. This led to Combs establishing his own label, Bad Boy Records, bringing Biggie over as well as Craig Mack. He ended up signing artists such as Carl Thomas, Faith Evans, 112, Total and Father MC, alongside a production team that had either worked previously with or would go on to work with in the future, the likes of Usher, Lil Kim, TLC, Mariah Carey, Boyz II Men and Aretha Franklin. Combs became involved with the heavily publicised beef between the East and West Coast, often being parodied and criticised by Tupac and Suge Knight over at their own label Death Row Records. It was also in 1993 when Combs' first son Justin was born to fashion designer and stylist Misa Hilton, who would go on to graduate from UCLA on a football scholarship. The following year he began a long on-again off-again relationship with model and actress Kimberly Porter, in which he even adopted her 3-year-old son Quincy, who would grow up to become a singer and actor. Quincy's biological father was coincidentally not only a singer-producer, but Combs' own rival Al B. Shaw. It was in 1995 when Combs founded Daddy's House Social Program, an organisation to help the inner city youth with tutoring, life skills classes and an annual summer camp. It wasn't until 1996 when he first released a single under the name Puff Daddy called Can't Nobody Hold Me Down, which spent 28 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100 chart, reaching number 1. In 1997, he was sued for landlord neglect by Ingy Bongo, claiming that his Los Angeles property was infested with insects, rodents and vermin. She also claims that he broke the door lock and she had to gain entry through a dog flap, as well as having received death threats from the artist, but he denied all charges. His debut album No Way Out was released on July the 22nd that year, but had to be altered at the last minute due to Biggie's untimely death just a few months earlier. Regardless, it reached number 1 on the Billboard 200 in its first week and earned 5 nominations at the 40th Grammy Awards, winning Best Rap Album. With his ever-growing list of success, he became head of Combs Enterprises, an umbrella company for his portfolio of various businesses. He owned 2 restaurants called Justin's, named after his son, and was the designer of the Dallas Mavericks alternate jersey. That year, he was listed by the Guinness World Records as the most successful rap producer, as he had produced singles that charted for 36 consecutive weeks. In 1998, he launched his own clothing line, Sean John, which was nominated for the Council of Fashion Designers of America Award for Menswear Designer of the Year, which ended up winning, and years later, Ronald Burkle himself would invest $100 million into the company. That same year, he received the Golden Plate Award from the American Academy of Achievement for his vast charity work, and it was around the same time when Kimberly Porter gave birth to their son Christian. It was now when Combs began to host a series of parties later being known as white parties due to the all-white dress code. The first took place on September the 7th, 1998 at his home on Hedges Bank Drive in East Hampton, New York. Paris Hilton was in attendance and described the party as iconic, comparing Combs to Jay Gatsby, stating, quote, "Everyone was there," end quote. Martha Stewart also attended, claiming Combs looked, quote, "very handsome in white," end quote, and described all the guests in the same dress code as a stunning sight. While Monique P. Yazigi wrote in the New York Times, the 1998 would be remembered as, quote, "the summer of Puff Daddy in the Hamptons," end quote. This solidified Combs even further in the mainstream as these parties spanned for well over a decade. CNN would later report, quote, "There was a time when one of the hottest summer tickets belonged to anyone who was able to score an invite to a party," end quote, and claimed that the parties, quote, "marked the peak of his cultural influence," end quote. Jessa McKinley and Sarah Maslin Neer from the New York Times would later report, quote, "few events held the culture cachet as his parties, and that Diddy would be invariably toasting the scene with a glass of Ciroc vodka and welcoming comparisons of his rebels to those of law," end quote.
First of all, I don't know why all the girls over there and all the guys over here, if you ain't talking to a girl, then you got to go, because this ain't that type of party. If you shy, I got my bad thing. Hey, yo, tell them downstairs, just let up girls. Get it, girls, strike up a conversation or something.
I remember marijuana, and topless women. That's the 2 main things that I remember.
People were getting high. There were girls swimming topless, young-looking girls that were, not dressed. We moved to another part of the house so that he wouldn't be exposed to what was going on.
This is what I'm going to do, because I think they never been to a Diddy party. If you not dancing, I just got hard, then you got to go. So security, if you see somebody and they not dancing, they got to go.
Yep. P. Diddy be wanting to party, and you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did. I did. See, I got the receipts for everything I'm telling.
I got on a plane at 5:30 a.m. Go to this party. I think half the people there were butt naked. You would have loved it.
Diddy party stories, man. That was like some weird memory lane.
Something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp.
Yeah,
Flavor
that's
Camp.
what it was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
In the 90s, do you understand what that's like?
He put his arm around me in an uncomfortable way, close to areas that you shouldn't as a grown man.
What attracted people to this concept was the mix of such vast celebrities from different backgrounds. Writer Stephen Gaines admitted that the residents of the Hamptons initially thought, quote, "the first party was the end of the world. They were afraid of a noisy showbiz crowd and thought it was going to be an invasion, and it turned out not to be," end quote. It would later be revealed that Puff would provide the neighbours with free limousine rides and complimentary meals in expensive restaurants to compensate for the noise complaints. During this time, he also reportedly stated, quote, "they don't want me to throw parties no more, but we ain't going to stop. We gonna keep on having fun. bringing people together from all walks of life. You're gonna hear about my parties. They're gonna be shutting them down. They're gonna probably be arresting me, doing all types of crazy things, just because we want to have a good time." End quote.
All lies will be exposed, that's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way.
And just as predicted, his legal issues would only continue. In 1999, Puff filmed a music video for Nas for the song Hate Me Now, but he became concerned that the image of them being crucified was going to be received as blasphemous, so he requested for his scenes to be dropped, but this was refused, and the video aired on April the 15th anyway. This led to Puff visiting the office of Nas's manager Steve Stout of Interscope and violently assaulting him. This resulted in a lawsuit with him being charged for assault, which he initially pled guilty to. However, Puff then paid Stout an out-of-court settlement of $500,000, though he was still sentenced to face 1 day in an anger management class. On August the 24th, his second album Forever was released, which reached number 2 on the Billboard 200 and number 1 on the top R&B hip-hop albums. The legal issues would only continue, however, on December the 27th, 1999, when Puff and his girlfriend at the time, Jennifer Lopez, as well as his protege Shine, were in Club New York on Times Square when gunfire suddenly broke out. A witness claimed that it sparked up when Combs got into a heated argument with someone. Upon investigation, Combs and Shine were both arrested for 4 weapons-related charges, as well as for bribing Puff's driver Wardell Fenderson to try to claim ownership of his gun. This was a highly publicised case, though Combs was found not guilty of all charges. Shine, however, was convicted on 5 of his 8 and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Combs and Lopez broke up not long after, but Fenderson ended up filing a lawsuit, claiming to have suffered emotional damage after the shooting, which was settled out of court, with both sides agreeing to keep the terms a secret, though he would later be arrested for driving with a suspended license in Florida. As of September the 7th, 2000, Puff was certified septuple platinum for having sold over 7 million copies of his No Way Out album, though others criticised him for watering down the hip-hop genre and relying solely on guest appearances and samples of past hits. It was the following year when he officially changed his artist name to P. Diddy and completed a gospel album named Thank You, due to be released in March 2001, but this ended up never going through. Regardless, he did end up producing the soundtrack album for the movie Training Day. By June, he ended Bad Boy Records' distribution deal with Arista Records and now gained full control of the label and all of its artists. In the spring of 2002, he was the opening act for NSYNC and signed pop girl group Dream to his label, also becoming the executive producer of the reality television show Making the Band. He was listed by Fortune magazines as number 12 on the top 40 list of entrepreneurs under the age of 40. In 2003, P. Diddy ran the New York City Marathon, raising $2 million for the educational system of the city, finishing in 4 hours and 18 minutes. However, it was that same year when controversy returned to his life, as the National Labor Committee revealed that the factories producing Diddy's Sean John clothing brand in Honduras actually violated Honduran labor laws. Supposedly, staff members were subjected to body searches and involuntary pregnancy tests, with bathrooms being locked and having minimal access. They were also supposedly forced to work overtime and were paid what was described as sweatshop wages. The New York Times reported on this story, quote, "Sean Puff Daddy obviously has a lot of clout. He can literally do a lot overnight to help these workers," end quote. Diddy denied having any knowledge of this treatment and claimed, quote, "I'm as pro-worker as they get," end quote. It was the same year when he faced another lawsuit, this time by Kirk Burroughs, who claimed that he was forced to give up his shares of Bad Boy Records with threats of violence. However, this case was later dismissed due to the statute of limitations exceeding. By the following year, it was reported that there had been improvements made at the Sean John factory, including air conditioning, water purification systems, the firing of abusive supervisors, and introducing a labor union to the facility. It was on July the 4th, 2004, when the next white party took place at the PlayStation 2 estate in Bridgehampton, New York. Diddy was campaigning to try to increase minority voter participation within the current presidential election, so he arrived at the party with a copy of the Declaration of Independence, which was owned by television producer Norman Lear. Diddy stated, quote, "No one would ever expect a young black man to be coming to a party with the Declaration of Independence, but I got it, and it's coming with me, and I promise not to spill champagne on it," end quote. Diddy arrived in 2 helicopters with his entourage and some cast members of A Raisin in the Sun, in which he had appeared on Broadway. 800 celebrities attended this party, including Tyson Beckford, Elton Brand, Mary J. Blige, Aretha Franklin, Paris Hilton, LL Cool J, Betsy Johnson, Lennox Lewis, Lisa Ling, Denise Rich, Chanel Sharpton. It was in 2005 when Diddy and Jay-Z both pledged $1 million to the victims of Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans, as well as donating clothing from the Sean John line and some computers and books to schools in New York. It was that same year when Michigan television host Rogelio Mills joined the list, suing Diddy for assault, but these charges were later dropped. It was on August the 16th when he announced that he was now changing his name from P. Diddy to simply just Diddy, as fans simply weren't sure what to call him, so he wanted to save all confusion. Over the years he appeared in several movies and TV shows, and he also ended up selling half of his record company to the Warner Music Group, as well as hosting the MTV Video Music Awards, being named one of the 100 most influential people of 2005 by Time magazine. By the end of the year, however, he was facing another lawsuit. Richard Dearlove was a London-based artist and DJ who had been performing under the name Diddy since 1992, 9 years before Sean Combs, and decided to sue him. Combs did offer an out-of-court settlement of £10,000 in damages and over $100,000 in costs, which he accepted, but it meant that Combs was no longer able to use the name Diddy in the United Kingdom. In 2006, Mace looked to leave Bad Boy Records to join the popular group G-Unit, but Diddy refused to release him from his contract. This led to G-Unit member 50 Cent releasing a diss track named Hip Hop, in which he publicly accused Diddy of being fully aware of who killed Biggie Smalls years earlier.
So you and Diddy, you and Puff cool?
No, I don't really rock with him.
Okay,
like that.
damn, all right.
It was that same year when Diddy had a daughter who was born to Sarah Chapman, and just 5 months later Kimberly Porter then gave birth to his twin daughters as well. It was around the same time when Macy's recalled a bunch of Sean John jackets from their stores upon discovering that they were actually made from real raccoon fur. Diddy again denied having any knowledge of this, and as soon as he was made aware, production of all future lines were soon withdrawn. The next party was held the same year at Nikki Beach in a club at Saint-Tropez in the south of France. October the 13th, 2006 was named by Chicago Mayor Richard M. Daley as Diddy Day in honor of all of his charity work. And just a few days later, on the 17th, he released another album named Press Play, which debuted at number 1 on the US Billboard 200 chart. It was in 2007 when he began a long-standing relationship with Cassie Ventura, but that same year he faced another lawsuit, this time by Gerard Rushnitzer, who claimed to have approached Diddy as he was talking to his girlfriend and was then assaulted. This case was later settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. On September the 2nd, 2007, another white party was held at Diddy's home in East Hampton, this time dubbed the Real White Party, which reportedly cost around $1 million and involved 300 celebrity guests, including Busta Rhymes, Mariah Carey, Lil' Kim, Star Jones, and Russell Simmons. By October, he agreed to help develop the Ciroc vodka brand in return for a 50% share of the profits. However, years later, Diageo would end up acquiring Ciroc and cut ties with Combs for, quote, refusing to acknowledge or honour his commitments, end quote. His accolades would only continue the following years. He became the first ever male rapper to be honoured with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. On October the 1st, he spent $20 million to buy the NYC clothing line from Liz Claiborne. In November, his business ventures grew as he added the men's perfume line I Am King to the Sean John brand, before later also introducing a female version. He owns a majority equity stake in the television network Revolt TV, which also has its own film production branch. But now is when the white parties finally came to an end. This one took place in Beverly Hills, dubbed Malaria No More, in aid of an anti-malaria charity. Diddy had been spending far less time in the Hamptons, so he decided to call the parties quits. But this one was described as, quote, iconic, a true convergence of hip-hop, Hollywood and black excellence, an endless stream of people vying to attend, end quote. Those in attendance included Russell Brand, Mariah Carey, Estelle, Jonah Hill, Lil' Kim, Ashton Kutcher, Demi Moore, Marla Maples, Tiffany Trump, Chris Brown, Amber Rose, and Tayana Taylor.
Got a lot. I can't tell. Can't tell that one either. I mean, I'm like actually cycling through them.
However, things weren't looking good as the Los Angeles Times reported that Diddy, alongside Biggie Smalls, had orchestrated the shooting of Tupac back in 1996, citing that it was backed up by FBI documents. documents. However, they did later retract this statement, admitting that the documents were all fabricated. Though there was speculation for years about Diddy's involvement in Tupac's murder, nothing has been definitively proven. It was in 2014 when he received an honorary doctorate in humanities from Howard University, and in his acceptance speech he thanked the university for having a huge positive influence on his life. In 2015, the legal battles continued as Diddy was once again arrested for aggravated assault after he attacked his son's football coach at the University of California, but these charges were later dropped due to lack of evidence. In February that year, he teamed alongside Mark Wahlberg and businessman Ronald Burkle to buy a majority holding of Aqua Hydrate, a calorie-free drink for athletes. The following year, Diddy donated $1 million to Howard University in order to establish the Sean Combs Scholarship Fund to help students who are unable to pay for their own tuition. By April, he announced that he would be retiring from the music industry to focus more on acting, following the release of a sequel album, No Way Out 2, which never ended up getting released. But Diddy's problems were only building up and the accusations increasing. In May 2017, Diddy's former personal chef Cindy Rueda filed a lawsuit against the man, claiming to have been harassed by him in the past, though this was once again settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. On November the 5th that year, Diddy claimed to have been changing his name to Love. Quote, "My new name is Love, aka Brother Love," end quote. Although he initially claimed to have been joking, he later changed his mind and actually did go ahead with the name change. On November the 15th, 2018, Diddy's on-again, off-again partner Kimberly Porter sadly passed away from pneumonia at the age of 47. The following year he invested in PlayVersus, which provides infrastructure for competitive gaming within United States high schools, even finding backing from Twitch co-founder Kevin Lin. As of 2021, Diddy managed to turn things around and was actually on the other side of a lawsuit for a change, suing for $60 million against the new owners of the Sean John brand, claiming that they had used his likeness without his permission and had even fabricated quotes used by him to endorse some of their new lines. That same year, he was inducted into the Black Music and Entertainment Walk of Fame, and by 2022, he announced that he'd again be donating $1 million to Howard University, as well as Jackson State University. By May, he announced that he was starting up yet another record label known as Love Records as part of a recording contract with Motown. The following month, he received the BET Lifetime Achievement Award, and on October the 15th, his 7th child was born, a daughter born by Dana Trout. In November 2022, Diddy and his son, under the name King Combs, became the first ever father-son duo to have simultaneous #1 hits with Diddy's Gotta Move On and his son Can't Stop Won't Stop. In 2023, he filed another lawsuit, this time for racial discrimination against the alcoholic beverage company Diageo, claiming that they had deliberately kneecapped the marketing and sales of his vodka and tequila labels, though he would later withdraw this lawsuit and cut all business ties with them. In September, Diddy was awarded the key to New York City by Mayor Eric Adams, and on the 15th, he released another record, the Love album, Off the Grid. It was that same year when he received the MTV VMA Global Icon Award, but this was the time when Diddy's fame, popularity, success, reputation, and good name were all about to come crashing down. On November the 16th, 2023, Diddy's long-term partner Cassie Ventura filed a lawsuit against him, accusing the man of trafficking and physical assault. She also claimed that he was responsible for blowing up the car of her boyfriend at the time, Kid Cudi, though the following day she accepted a settlement out of court for another undisclosed amount.
Is there anything that you may want to confess tonight before you go in?
I keep everything right here.
There you go.
Or right here.
There you go.
However, on November the 23rd, 2 more were filed for assault and revenge porn. It was alleged that Diddy and his friend Aaron Hall sexually abused a woman and her friend in 1990 or 1991. They claimed that they were drugged, assaulted, and then recorded before the video was passed around. The following day, Macy's pulled all the Sean John clothing from their stores and severed all partnership with the man. Diddy himself stepped down as chairman of Revolt TV, and several businesses cut ties and all involvement with him. Hulu was preparing a reality show based on Diddy and his family, which was promptly cancelled. Kesha changed her lyrics to her song TikTok, in which she mentions him, and all radio stations permanently banned his music. He had already been nominated for a Grammy for Best Progressive R&B Album, but he didn't attend the ceremony due to the allegations.
Our team has had at this point More than 3,285 individuals contact us.
On December the 6th, the following month, an unnamed woman claimed that as a teenager, she was flown on a private jet from Detroit to New York by Harvey Pierre, who was the president of Bad Boy Records at the time. She claimed that once there, she was ganged by Diddy, Pierre, and an unknown third abuser. As the allegations began to pile up, some even started to point fingers towards the white parties, accusing them of involving illegal and sexual acts. Diddy would respond stating that it was, quote, disappointing to see the media and social commentators twist these cultural moments into something they were not, shaming celebrities who attended, taking video clips and photos out of context and trying to link these events to false allegations is simply untrue, end quote. Several celebrities were now accused of participating in the parties, either directly or not putting a stop to any of the activity, including the likes of Will Smith, Kevin Hart and Leonardo DiCaprio. The latter did speak out publicly to defend himself, claiming that he hadn't contacted Diddy in years, but maintained that he didn't partake in any illegal activities at the parties, reiterated by Will Smith.
It's really hard for y'all to discern what's real and what's true, you know? And I've been seeing y'all memes and stuff. People be making memes. I see the memes. I said, no, some of that stuff is funny. Some of it's funny. But I haven't addressed any of this publicly, but I just want to say this very clearly. I don't have to do with Puffy, so y'all can stop all their memes. I can stop all of that. I ain't been nowhere near no damn freak off. Listen, I do enough of my own. Don't be putting me in other people's. I ain't been nowhere near that, man. I ain't did none of that stupid. So, whenever y'all hear it, if somebody say that, it's a damn lie.
All of these big dick deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is.
The day will come when we will name names other than Sean Combs, and there's a lot of names. It's a long list already. And of course, I already know who some of these individuals are, but because of the nature of this case, we're going to make damn sure that we're right before we do that. The names that we're going to name, assuming that our investigators confirm and corroborate what we've been told, are names that will shock you. These are individual cases. There are indeed other perpetrators involved. They will be revealed when that particular individual case is ready to be filed. They already know who they are. And I'm talking here about not just the cowardly but complicit bystanders. That is, those people that we know watched this behavior occur and did nothing. And I'm talking about the people that participated, encouraged it, egged it on. They know who they are.
A video soon surfaced of Kevin Hart hosting one of Diddy's parties and seemingly not being overly sensitive when one woman's hair catches on fire, only focused on getting the right footage.
Oh! Yes! Oh! Did the camera catch that? Got the camera! Got the camera! We had technical difficulties last time, but I'm gonna tell you something. When you with troopers, we act as troopers and we fix situations. We're up here, everybody's safe. No, this one's here. We had Trigger Trey on the scene. Honestly, second degree black belt in first aid. Right now, also my man Terrence, BT 106 Park, he's in the building. Shouts out to Terrence for a very small waistline on his pants. Listen, we're really right now. Listen, what we're doing is unbelievable. No, listen. What we're doing is unbelievable up here. No, listen, it's all love here, okay? I'm tipsy. Trey, if you can't put it in the knot. If you can't, Trey, can you put it in the knot? Just put it in the knot. If you can, put it here in the knot. If you can. We had a fire. We had a fire here not too long ago. So we're just, as you can see, Fab is still shell-shocked.
But this is all speculation. Once stopped for a statement, Kevin Hart refused to comment on the allegations.
When you hosted for Diddy, did you catch any baby oil?
I hosted for Diddy. Asking the wrong person the wrong question. That sound like your question.
Do you think he's safe in jail?
Wrong person.
I didn't register the information yet. I said, and our ish is fire. Because this is what we do. I turn around to see a full-fledged flame go out.
It would only continue on February the 26th, 2024, when producer Rodney Jones accused Diddy of assault during their time together a few months prior, also mentioning actor Cuba Gooding Jr. possibly being involved as well. On March the 4th, he filed another lawsuit against him and his son Justin, accusing them both of engaging in a massive cover-up of their involvement in the shooting of a 30-year-old man at a writers and producers camp at his recording studio in Los Angeles 2 years prior. On March the 25th, former Syracuse University basketball player and close associate to Diddy, Brendan Paul, was arrested on charges of possessing cocaine and other controlled substances. He was released the following day after posting a $2,500 bond, but it was speculated that he was a drug mule for P. Diddy. On the same day, due to the ongoing investigation, Diddy's properties in Los Angeles, New York, and Miami were all raided and searched. His computers and devices were all seized, and they discovered narcotics, ketamine, ecstasy, GHB, 3 illegally modified AR-15 rifles, and over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. Though Diddy was taken in for questioning, he was allowed to be released to enjoy his planned vacation to Antigua and Barbuda. In May, model Crystal McKinney spoke out to accuse Diddy of assault 19 years earlier, and on the 17th, CNN released CCTV footage of him assaulting his ex-girlfriend Ventura at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles back in 2016. 2 days later, and Diddy issued a public video apologizing for his behavior.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. Sometimes you gotta do that. I was up. I mean, I hit rock bottom. But I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy, and go into rehab. Had to ask God for His mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
It would later be alleged that hotel staff were able to stop the abuse continuing, and that Diddy had supposedly bribed them to stay quiet about it. On May the 23rd, April Lampos also filed a lawsuit in New York State Court claiming battery, sexual assault and negligent infliction of emotional distress between the mid-90s and early 2000s. Due to the allegations, on June the 7th, 2024, Howard University announced that they would be revoking Diddy's honorary doctorate, returning his $1 million donation and terminating his pledge agreement. On the 10th, Derek Lee Cardello Smith filed a lawsuit claiming to have been assaulted by him at a party in 1997. As Diddy failed to appear in court, Cardello Smith was awarded the default judgment of $100 million, and Combs was given a temporary restraining order, preventing him from selling any assets, though these decisions would be later overturned as the judge cited improper service. On September the 16th, 2024, P. Diddy was arrested and indicted in the Southern District of New York under charges of racketeering, trafficking by force, and the transportation for purposes of prostitution, as he currently awaits his trial in Brooklyn. The following day, he pleaded not guilty but was denied bail in order to remain in custody. On the 18th, he was denied bail once again by a different judge due to concerns of witness threats and intimidation. The attorneys offered $50 million and to have Diddy be surrounded by security for monitored visits and phone calls, to no avail. It didn't take long for Netflix to announce a documentary was being made about the allegations, even being produced by 50 Cent.
P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy.
Yeah.
Did he do it, right?
Yeah.
I know
He did it.
you've been heavy on social media talking about it.
He did it. And I'm the only one who's been vocal about this long before it actually.
That same month, Dawn Richard from Making the Band also spoke out, filing a lawsuit against him, accusing of sex trafficking, assault, battery, false imprisonment, and more, even claiming to have been a witness to the abuse of Ventura. Talia Graves also filed a lawsuit, claiming that Diddy and his head of security had drugged, bound and raped her in 2001 and recorded the entire thing. On September the 27th, an unnamed model from Florida also claimed to have been drugged, assaulted and impregnated by him. She claimed to have miscarried, but at the time Diddy's then girlfriend Young Miami tried to pressure her to have an abortion. On October the 1st, the Washington Post reported that a team of lawyers were filing over 120 lawsuits involving assaults during the 2000s and 2010s, 25 of which were minors, both male and female, and most taking place in New York State.
When you talk about the ages of the victims when the conduct occurred, it's shocking. Our youngest victim at the time of the occurrence was 9 years old. We have an individual who was 14 years old. We have one who was 15.
On the 28th, 2 more lawsuits were filed claiming that he had drugged and assaulted a 10-year-old boy in a New York hotel room back in 2005 following a planned audition, and that he and his bodyguard also assaulted a 17-year-old man during another audition for making the band 3 years later. Half of the alleged victims claim to have actually reported these assaults to the police, a doctor, or even the FBI, but were either drugged or offered hush money to stay quiet. Andrew Van Arsdale of the AVA Law Group claimed to have heard allegations from around 3,000 people, and that their team were examining a further 100 or so potential cases. While Diddy continues to maintain his innocence, Erica Wolf, who is a member of his defence team, told the BBC, quote, "Combs looks forward to proving his innocence and vindicating himself in court, where the truth will be established based on evidence, not speculation." End quote. It would only continue as it was rumoured that Diddy had also assaulted Usher and Justin Bieber at a young age as well. This was an allegation put forward by Suge Knight. Quote, "He had grown men take Justin Bieber when he was young on romantic vacations, showing pictures on Instagram with no women, nobody else but grown successful men and this little kid. Not only is it a bad look, it's sad. It was the saddest thing in the world what they did to Justin Bieber. I hate to say that because I really like Justin Bieber. I feel bad for Justin Bieber." End quote. Furthermore, some old video interactions between Diddy and Bieber began to surface, only further adding to the speculation. Further videos also came to light of Diddy and The Game providing Justin Bieber drinks, but the singer has yet to address the allegations publicly. Knight also claimed that, quote, "Usher spent the night with Puffy, sharing the same bed when they worked on an album together, yet they never released a single song from that time." End quote. He insisted that Usher was also stating, quote, "People told Usher that if he ever exposed Puffy, he would be remembered for being by Puffy instead of for his music." End quote. Much like Bieber, Usher has yet to comment on the allegations.
You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy camp?
Hell no.
It would only continue in December 2024 when Diddy, as well as Jay-Z, were both accused in a new lawsuit of raping a 13-year-old girl at an MTV Video Music Awards after party back in 2000. And that very same month, Diddy was accused of the assault of a further 3 men. Combs continued to claim these were more lies about him, while Jay-Z also maintained his innocence, describing it all as a huge blackmail attempt for money. On December the 9th, Jay-Z filed a motion requesting the identity of the accuser and to file a lawsuit against their attorney. However, days later on the 13th, the unnamed woman admitted that there were inconsistencies in her own allegations, as she had originally claimed that her father picked her up after the abuse supposedly took place, but her father had no memory of doing this, nor does another celebrity who she thought was a witness despite not even being in New York at the time. In fact, images were found to prove that Diddy and Jay-Z were even in completely different locations at the time the incident supposedly took place. The Diddy trial is set to take place in May 2025, but it seems the allegations and the party guests continue to pile up. So while we await further truth, we have no choice but to continue seeking answers.